Thank you very much. I thank the organizers for inviting me. The subject given to me is energy administration. And I think since morning we have been hearing, starting with Dr. Pramod Dev, Mr. Shoktankar, a number of speakers, including the immediately preceding speaker. And it's clear a lot of problems are related to governance issues. There is a structural kind of structure available. When it comes to consumers, as Dr. Pramod Dev's slide indicated, MSCDCIL has totally about 2 crore consumers in Maharashtra. As he pointed out of the 2 crore consumers, roughly about 2,500 consumers contribute to 41% of its revenue. Agriculture, in terms of MUs, agricultural pumping, takes about 26% of the electricity distributed by MSCDCIL. It accounts for 3% of the revenue if people pay. That is the agriculture sector. That can be justified. There are reasons why we need to subsidize agriculture. I'm not on that point. But if we go deeper into this issue, so in addition to 6,000 crores of direct subsidy, there is roughly about 8,000 crores of indirect subsidy or cross-subsidy, where the higher-paying consumers are subsidizing the lower tariff consumers. So 8 and 6, 14,000. What is 14,000 roughly in 60,000? About 20%. So which means that about 20% of the annual revenue requirement of the biggest distribution company in India, MSCDCIL, comes from subsidies, direct subsidy and cross-subsidy. Now let me put a magnifying glass and ask, where is this subsidy going? It is basically going to 10 districts in Maharashtra. It does not go to all the districts. Almost the entire this subsidy, direct plus cross subsidy, 14,000 crores, actually is a transfer of money from some pockets to certain other pockets. And which are these districts? It is Pune, Sholapur, Satara, Sangli, Kolhapur, Ahmednagar, Jalgaon. Basically part of Western Maharashtra, Sholapur. What are the crops they grow? Mostly sugarcane and keli. Now that is the political economy. It is done in the name of a farmer. The word farmer is used without disaggregating between who are taking cash crops, who are taking jawar, who are taking bajri. No. The subsidy is basically going to the rich farmers, to the semi-feudal rural elite of Maharashtra. But they are the people in power. No person in power will pass a law against his own interest. So for that, you must study, you must make a sociological study or the background study of all MLAs in Maharashtra. There are so many MLAs. What is the background? What is the income they have declared in their, when they fought elections before the election commission? And these studies do exist because now luckily these are transparent. Every person who contests election will need to declare. Declared election may be much less than is actual. But notwithstanding that, even if you go by the declared incomes of MLAs of the state, you will get a profile, a sociological profile. And try to map that sociological profile with where the subsidy is going. By and large, there will be a large overlap of that. Now, what I have told of Maharashtra is equally true of other states, except the class will be different. Here it may be sugarcane and keli cultivators. In some other state, it will be something else. But I'm going back to Karl Marx's statement. Governments have always been and will also continue to be, in the future also, an executive committee of the vested interests in society. Vested is those who have benefited at that point of time in governance. And this is the fundamental problem of governance. What is the way out? The way out is an extremely vigilant public, an extremely vigilant electorate. And the Indian electorate is extremely vigilant electorate means where, yes, everybody, they vote depending on who protects their interest, which is quite fine. And I won't say the Indian electorate is not all that vigilant, except many don't go to exercise the franchise. After all, when we talk of reforms, in the immediate post-reform era, the two chief ministers in India who implemented reforms really well, both got voted out of office. Chandrababu Naidu in the then Andhra Pradesh and S.M. Krishna in the then Karnataka. On the ground that whatever development they did helped Hyderabad and Bangalore, but did not help rural Andhra Pradesh and rural Karnataka. So they were thrown out of power. Which also indicates that it's not that there is zero vigilance, but in a complex plural society, it's necessary for people to know whose pockets are being picked and whose pockets are being rewarded. And that is what is called political economy. The government budget is nothing but a transfer payment in society. But if this transfer payment is very explicit, people will understand it. Over and above explicit transfers, there are implicit transfers. The electricity sector is an excellent example of implicit transfer of resources to the semi-feudal rural elite, the owners of cash crops in Maharashtra, to give the Maharashtra example. So in short, there is no answer to this governance issue except a political answer. And that political answer depends on people exercising the franchise with a lot of thought. Then the plurality of the society will indicate what we want. Second is, for administrators, researchers, and professionals, it is necessary for us to plead, kindly make the subsidies explicit. Let us move from an era of implicit subsidies to explicit subsidies. So that these budgetary transfers and non-budgetary transfers become a little more, clarity. And having said this, as what I will call as, this according to me is the cardinal problem of governance. But please remember, people in power, they have been voted to protect those interests. After all, they are also getting funded. They are getting funded for protecting these interests. Those who have an elementary knowledge of economics knows that in microeconomics you have these market structures, perfect competition at one end, monopoly at the other end. Perfect competition achieves allocative efficiency. It also ensures maximum benefit to the consumers. But no producer, no supplier, no investor wants perfect competition. He wants to move towards the other end of monopoly. So the political class in rhetoric will speak in favor of perfect competition, will make laws in favor of taking you to perfect competition. Electricity Act 2003 is also one such act, which helps competition, helps you to move into a competitive market, and competition in the long run will bring down tariffs. All good, because that is for the good of the large number of consumers. Rhetoric will be always in the direction. action, the suppliers, the investors will try to please help us to go in the other direction. And that is also the root cause of corruption. The root cause of corruption is people who have money, who are invariably the suppliers, the producers, the investors, will be willing to bribe the people in charge of governance so that they can continue with a rhetoric of free market, competition, etc., and actually create sufficient loopholes in the system to move in the other direction. So both are satisfied. This is another problem of governance. This problem has to do something with, I will call as a historical civilizational problem, which perhaps we had. Again, coming to economics, one of the famous books of economics was written in 1776 by Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, an inquiry into the cause of wealth of nations, written in 1776, which continues to be the Bible of those countries which follow market economies, even today. Sometime around late 60s, 1960s, a Swedish economist called Gunnar Myrdal wrote a book, which I'm sure should be available in the SPJ in library, called The Asian Drama, an inquiry into the cause of poverty of nations. Taking the title, Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, an inquiry into the cause of wealth of nations. Gunnar Myrdal, the Swedish Nobel Prize winning economist, wrote The Asian Drama, an inquiry into the cause of poverty of nations. It's quite a big book, worth reading. Most of it is about India. It's about South Asia. So India is the biggest country in South Asia. One of the things he points out is the South Asian countries have a soft state. And the meaning of a soft state is we make laws, but neither the makers of the law nor others really expect it to be implemented. It's a soft state. Having the Sahara chief in the jail for so long is an exception to the rule. It is not a, it isn't. That is, we have an extremely weak criminal justice system. Rajat Gupta is in an American jail because that criminal justice system works. But here, 99 out of 100 fly-by-night operators can get away, will never come under the clutches of the criminal justice system because we have a soft state. To give a difference, Prince Charles, who unfortunately doesn't appear to ever become the King of England, because the Queen appears to be a queen till her death. But Prince Charles was caught through Doppler radars a number of years ago, almost 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Through Doppler radar, he was caught overspeeding in one of the motorways. His license was cancelled, was suspended for a period of 2 years. Prince Charles' driving license was suspended for a period of 2 years. So 2 years he could not drive. He needed a chauffeur to drive him around. The point is, this decision would have been taken by somebody equivalent to the traffic police in our DCP traffic in Bombay or the RTO in Bombay. But Buckingham Palace, no telephone calls came from there to interfere with the working of the law. Well, he couldn't drive for 2 years. Another instance, Steffi Graf, all of you would have heard her name. She was the queen of tennis, having won the Grand Slam, I think 2 years or 3 years in succession. At the time when she was the heroine of the world, in the tennis world, her father had been arrested, convicted, and sent to jail. Steffi Graf's father, when Steffi Graf was in the heat of her success, her father was in jail in Germany for evasion of tax, a simple tax evasion. Those are states where laws are implemented. So having laws by themselves is not sufficient. You need to implement laws. But we don't have a history of implementation of laws. The 2003 Electricity Act is no different. As was mentioned by a number of speakers, the entire 2003 Electricity Act is a reform act. It is meant to kind of facilitate more and more investment. It is meant to rationalize tariff. But the two crucial center points of that act is, one is progressive reduction of cross-subsidy. So that, let's say the MSEDCL power, I don't know its present cost, but I assume the average cost of supply may be 5 rupees. Then every tariff should be 5 rupees. That's how the act was first made in 2003. The act said cross-subsidy should be progressively reduced and then eliminated. That is the word. Within a year of the promulgation of that act, the parliament themselves amended it, and in the first set of amendments, they slightly changed and they removed this word "and" eliminated. They said cross-subsidy should be progressively reduced as may be determined by the regulator, or words to that effect. And through the tariff policy, a subordinate piece of legislation, through the national tariff policy, they provided that tariff should be within plus minus 20% of the average cost of supply. So which means if the average cost of supply of MSEDCL power is 5 rupees, all tariffs should be between 4 rupees and 6 rupees. There cannot be a tariff lower than 4, and there should not be a tariff higher than 6 rupees. Nobody has achieved it. Today, perhaps the highest tariffs must be for advertising and hoardings, etc., which must be 13 or 14 rupees. Typically, commercial tariffs must be perhaps 9 or 10 rupees, or 10 or 11 rupees. Industrial tariffs, even after reducing 1 rupee in recent times, must be in the range of 7, 8 rupees. Railways pay a tariff of almost 7 rupees. Residential consumers pay around 4 rupees, 4 rupees 50 paise. And agriculturalists, perhaps the fixed tariff will be around 2 rupees. So this progressive reduction of cross subsidies, which was a central point of the Electricity Act 2003, has not been achieved. Related to that is the item open access. Very simple concept. There are highways crisscrossing the entire state and country. Any person can take his car, go through these highways by paying the required toll. Open access is that. There is a network of wires, and any generator, renewable, conventional, any generator can pump in his electrons into that system of wires and pay a wheeling charge. And similarly, any person can take out that electron at any other point in the grid. That is called open access. Open access is very, very essential for competition to take place. But for open access to succeed, you must first be able to progressively reduce cross-subsidy. Today, as Dr. Pramod Dev also said, out of these 2,500 consumers who provide 41% of the revenue to MSEDCL, will MSEDCL allow any of them to leave? They won't. They do allow a few people. That is called discriminatory open access. When they get a message from the political leadership, ki inko de dijiye. So discriminatory open access does exist in Maharashtra also. There are a few people who have got open access. Few more may get. But that is after the deal is made with the political executive. Non-discriminatory open access is non-existent. That's it. Now what will happen is, this entire debate will get totally confused Because when the further discussions of the what needs to be done, etc., take place, now in this Electricity Amendment Bill 2014, they are talking in terms of separating carriage and content. But the underlying problems, you can't brush it under the carpet and expect that this will work. Because that is with a view to expedite open access. But who is going to allow you, except, as I said, in a few cases where settlements are made through political corruption, who is going to allow open access? So this is, I think the problems are known. There is perhaps even a method of solving it, in my view. In my view, one is you have to get rid of these implicit subsidies and make them explicit. Do whatever you do with an open hand. Let people know whose pockets are being picked and who are being rewarded. That's one. After that, the second is all state governments have revenue deficits. You see, India's public finances were in good condition till the year 1982, when the central government went into revenue deficit. By 1988, the central government as well as all state governments in India went into revenue deficits. Occasionally, a state used to have a revenue surplus whenever a new state was created. Like when Bihar got split into Jharkhand and Bihar, the revenue earning matters went to Jharkhand and revenue expenditure went to Bihar. So for a short while, Jharkhand had revenue surplus till the politicians of that state ate it all up. Similarly, now, whenever a new state is formed, perhaps in this Telangana and Andhra also, Telangana is revenue-wise rich. So, that is for a short time. It has nothing to do with a particular political party. It is the culture of governance where people have not been vigilant enough. So because of a revenue deficit, states don't have money and they can't print notes. In this great oasis, we have occasional, in this great thing, we have occasional shining stars. Now, for example, the present RBI governor, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, knows what is happening. That is why yesterday he didn't bring down the interest rates. And if you read his question answers, one of the main reasons was the non-performing assets of the banking sector, which includes all this. This 3 lakh crores of the electricity is a non-performing asset. You can't suddenly bring down interest rates from 10% to 4% or 5% when your banking sector has huge NPAs. And if you go with a magnifying glass, these NPAs will reveal other things. Because that is also mentioned today morning by somebody. You give a 100 crore loan, next year you give 200 crores and show 100 crore as repaid. You can keep on cycling your debt. So what is shown on paper as this much is owed, if you go deeper, you may find that, and this is the trouble with the banking system. They can't disclose it. If they disclose, they themselves will get destroyed. It will be mutual annihilation. It will be mutual annihilation. So the problems have to do, the governance issues have to do more with values. The fact that whether we like it or not, we have become an extremely corrupt society. One did hope that it was not when India was formed after independence. The freedom fighters, one of the most honest governments which we had, I will say the value system in India till the death of Lal Bahadur Shastri was of a very, very different character and kind. Lal Bahadur Shastri, as Prime Minister of this country, attended weddings in his own family by paying for all the tickets himself. He didn't use the Prime Minister's office to fit his bills. So India, up to the death of Lal Bahadur Shastri, after independence till the death of Lal Bahadur Shastri is one era, and after that is another era. So in that era, when you introduced all this licensing Raj so that you get self-reliance, that is also well intended. But the permit license Raj was misutilized by the private sector, basically to introduce this virus called corruption, that I can create a rentier class and take decisions on a quid pro quo payment of money. One expected that after economic reforms, since we abolished the license permit Raj, corruption will also, if not go away, will get substantially reduced. That didn't happen. It took a new form, what we today call as crony capitalism. A few people mentioned about coal. It's true, the Supreme Court ruled that everything was illegal, correctly so. But by auctioning it, we have not solved any of the problems. We have created more problems. The reason is, people who had coal blocks, on the basis of which they had set up power plants, from their point of view, now I must minimize my damages. How do I minimize my damages? Let me, in the worst case scenario, let me write off the equity. Let me at least be able to service the debt. And it's this kind of thinking which has led to abnormally low auction levels or negative tariffs, which obviously is not workable. Even an 8th class student who solves a quadratic equation, x squared plus bx plus c, x is minus b plus minus under root of b squared minus 4ac by 2a, knows then when that discriminant is negative, you will have an imaginary root which is meaningless. So, bidding so low in auctions is a meaningless solution. It is not a solution which can ever, solve a problem. So everybody was right. The Supreme Court was right. But the way business is being done in India, which the business class learned slowly over the years, was first you tell your main officer, you bid L1 aani chahiye. You must get the contract. That is stage number 1. After that, they know they have to face crocodiles en route. Keep aside 200, 300 crores for overcoming the crocodiles. This I call as the Bombay Municipal Corporation method. So the contracting system in Bombay was that you get a contract. Then you keep on saying additional items. And every contractor is also linked up with a municipal councillor. The first municipal commissioner who hid this and successfully destroyed it was one Mr. Tinaikar. He is no more. But Tinaikar had to fight his own standing committee. That is, Tinaikar went to the Bombay High Court saying the standing committee has no business to replace my proposal with their own proposal. They can either accept my proposal, reject my proposal, or give me suggestions and say, keep these suggestions in mind and come back with a new proposal. This was a simple thing. And the High Court accepted that plea, saying under the Bombay Municipal Corporation Act, the executive powers are with the municipal commissioner. So they can't change my proposals and substitute. They can make the suggestions. Reject, fine. Accept, fine. Otherwise, these are the suggestions. Keep these suggestions and come back with a fresh proposal. It is with almost 3 years of fighting that he was able to introduce concretization of roads in Bombay. Because annual blacktopping of roads was one such contract where, so that's why I called this practice of doing business as something which started in the Bombay Municipal Corporation. Soon this concept was borrowed by the state government. So these governance issues have a long history. And governance issues have to be tackled by looking at the root of it. And the answer to that is perpetual vigilance. I think I'll stop what I want to say. Thank you.